What sort of evidence would a student need to actually submit if they were going to make a claim with impaired performance?
Well, it depends what the situation is. I mean, for instance, if you were feeling really, really stressed, really, really anxious, you'd have to provide evidence that you were stressed and anxious, and we would be looking for that from either a counsellor, that you've been in touch with the student wellbeing service, or you've been to your GP to confirm what you're saying. So whatever you write in your claim, your evidence should be supporting what you write in your claim. So you need to be careful about maybe what you put in your claim. If you've got 5 or 6 different situations that are really causing you issues at the time, can you provide 5 or 6 different lots of evidence? Because if you can't, then don't put 5 or 6 different reasons inside your claim. Just put the one that you can provide the evidence for. And rather than make the claim very complicated, because if you put 5 or 6 reasons in your claim, you will have to provide 5 or 6 different pieces of evidence. And then that makes it quite difficult for you to be able to maybe get hold of all of that evidence, particularly if some of it is affecting third parties. I did see a question come up, does bereavement count for impaired performance? Again, it's individual. It depends on the relationship of the deceased to you. Whether, if it's an uncle that you haven't seen for 15 years, but you're a little bit upset, then you might feel that you could only want 10 days. But if you're going to claim bereavement, you have to provide the death certificate, or you'd have to provide something from the funeral home, or you'd have to provide what we call the order of service for the funeral itself. If it's somebody that's very close to you, like a sibling, very close aunt or uncle, parent, grandparent, I would expect that you would be putting in for 10 working days with impaired performance non-submission. We only, in the Faculty of Education and Health and Human Sciences, we only accept the death certificate as the only piece of evidence for up to 8 weeks. After 8 weeks, if you are still suffering from your bereavement, you would then be needing to provide further evidence that you are still suffering from bereavement symptoms.
Okay, thanks, Jillian. I mean, it might be worth actually a supplementary question adding on to that. What sort of things do not constitute an extenuating circumstances claim? So,
student error. You've submitted the wrong piece of work, you've submitted a draft copy, or you completely submitted the wrong piece of work. That would be student error. You can't put ECs in. ECs are invalid if you put them in too late. So that wouldn't be counted either. It's hard to say really, because it all depends on the individual circumstances.
Yeah, I'm just talking about things like, you might get students that are late for an exam.
You can be, in our faculty, you can be up to 20 minutes late and be allowed into the exam. If you're more than 20 minutes late, you're not allowed into the exam. You could put ECs in, but if you overslept, it's not going to be considered. But also, please note, if you're going to do it for an exam, it is not 10 working days that you have to be able to submit your claim. It's only 5. So it's 5 working days from the date of the exam to be able to get your claim in. If you've had transport issues, it depends what those transport issues are. I mean, if there's been you're coming by car and there's been a major pile-up on the motorway, then that would certainly be considered, but then we would be needing evidence from transport systems to provide that evidence that there was a hold-up. They are quite subjective, these ones, because a lot of the time you have to take evidence of social media, etc. It's about the only time maybe we would consider any evidence of social media. But if it's your fault, you overslept, you didn't leave in good time, you got an exam in an hour's time, and your journey is going to take you an hour and a half, you know, it wouldn't be constituted as a good reason. There have to be circumstances that are unexpected and out of your control, really.
That's what I was just about to say, actually, Jillian. The key here is beyond your control.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I mean, misreading a timetable, that would not be constituted as acceptable EC.
Getting on the wrong train, on the wrong bus.
Yeah. And in terms of like assignments, things like weddings, moving house, you can't,
no, you
those
can't
sort of things
moving
you can't.
house because you know you're going to be moving house. Even unfortunately in situations where you're going to be evicted, you do know that you're going to be evicted. So those sorts of things, situations that you know that are upcoming, forthcoming, aren't usually considered.
And I think another key one is IT failure, if it's on the part of the student as to why they possibly didn't get an assignment on time.
If they submitted late after the deadlines that they have to be able to submit, then it's usually not considered. But what you have to be aware of, you're not the only student that's submitting at 23:30. I mean, my advice to students is at least try and get your work done at least the day before. You leave it to the very last minute and it's 11:30 at night. What you have to remember is it's not only your faculty that's submitting, it could be students from other faculties all over the university, and they're all trying to access Moodle, they're all trying to access the system, so the system will be really slow if you're doing it at the very last minute. And although you've actually pressed the button to submit, what you're getting is the buffing, you're getting the circle. And you'll get maybe a message up telling you that, you know, it's processing, but by the time it's processing and it's finished, you've missed that half-past deadline. So don't leave it until minutes beforehand.
That is something that we advise a lot of our students about. You know, do not leave it till the last minute to submit. I think is it Malaysia has her hand up?
Yeah, Malaysia. Sorry. She's had a hand
Sorry
up.
about that, Malaysia.
It's okay. So back to the up to 10, the second option. I just want to make sure I'm getting this correct. Okay, so if you choose the second option with impaired performance and you submit it, but you fail or you don't like the grade you receive, then you have a chance to resit in the summer, correct?
No, it's not a question if you don't like the grade that you've been given. It's as if your grade is below your expected performance. So if you're a student that normally gets 65 to 70 and you put a piece of work in for ECs and you only get 45, you've still passed, but it's well below your expected performance because students usually tend to have a sort of a consistent grade. Then you would be given the opportunity, once you've got that grade back and you've only got 45, it would be up to you whether or not you decided you wanted to resubmit.
Okay.
Because you've passed.
Okay.
Because masters, it's different, it's 50%. So if you've passed and you're happy with it, then you don't have to resit. And students actually do choose that, particularly in the first year. Marks are a little bit more important come second and third year because obviously they affect your final outcome for the type of degree that is awarded to you. So it's if your performance is well below expected, then you would likely get the chance to resit. If you fail, you'll definitely get the chance to resit if the EC has been accepted.
Okay, so what if but you also have the option of not submitting it and just doing it in July, correct?
Yes, if you've got the 10 working days with impaired performance, if you don't meet that 10 working days and you don't put that piece of work in, then you're covered by the non-submission. You didn't submit your piece of work. You've got EC accepted. You get a chance to do it during the resit period.
And is there any way of doing extenuating circumstances for most of your assessments all in one shot, or you have to do it for each one?
It depends whether or not you've got a run of assessments that are fairly close together. you can you can only put ECs in up to 4 weeks before an assessment due date, and you can put a claim in up to 10 working days after the due date. So if you've got 2 or 3 that are close together and fall within that 4-week period, then yes, you can put 1 claim in and put three assessments on 1 claim. That, in fact, actually is what the policy and procedure actually encourage you to do, is to put them all on 1 claim if they fall within the right time frame. If you try to put one in that's outside of that 4 weeks time frame, the chances are what you'll find is that you can't put the correct date for the submission in. It won't let you because you're trying to apply too soon. So if you had 2 that you needed and they were quite close together, you could put 2 on. If you had a third and it was just outside that, you'd have to wait a bit longer and put a separate claim in for that one.
Okay, thank you.
Jillian, can I just confirm? I've got a question actually. I mean, I just want to confirm it. So if a student actually gets accepted ECs and then gets a mark, which is, and they want to do it again because they're not happy, you know, they think, you know, say they got 45, I don't know, 50. If they do it again and their mark is lower the second time, do they have to accept the lower mark?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Yeah, because I was reading about.
That is something I can check 100%, but my understanding.
Yeah, it is. I had a look at it just before we came on, and it is on there.
Yeah,
so it's really important for students to understand that if they do want to have another go at it, if the mark is lower than the mark that they actually got in the first instance, they have to accept the lower mark.
They do, yeah. I was 99% sure that that's what the situation was.
Yeah.
Yes, but of course it depends how poor you've done in the assessment in the first place due to your impaired performance. And if you know that you're capable, very capable of doing much better, and again, it's in 2nd or 3rd year where those marks are very important to some students, not all. You know, some students really want to get the highest mark possible because their goal is to get the highest level of degree possible. Then you would most probably want to resit. But I've known students who've just scraped through, got 41% that are undergraduates and have decided to accept that mark. They don't want to do the work or the exam again, and that's fair enough.